kind of explained to many of you in here. Half of you have now taken the class, so I'm not going to give as long of an intro as I often do. The 560, sort of the goal of 560, I relate to the parable of the talents. The goal of 560 is to take whatever level you're at in terms of your programming or skills, and programming, scripting, coding skills coming into the class, and to create a project by multiplying those skills. If you come in with 0 skills, you can't just multiply those skills. So you have to add onto those skills. So there's an additive, multiplicative thing going on. And what we're going to do is, the students in the class this semester, they've all worked really hard to create projects. They want to show those products to you. And we've got some demos, some prototypes that they're going to pass around as we go and we look at this. We've had actually a pretty good range this semester. There were just 7 students in the class, but this semester we created, on Krippendorf's trajectory of artificiality, actually quite the range of different types of products this semester. And so I'm going to let them present those. We're going to go in this order that I've got kind of up on the board as we go through each of those. If you have questions for them, feel free to ask. There's 7, so I told them they've each got about 6 to 7 minutes each as we go, and we have about 9 minutes left on here. So, but if you want to ask questions, feel free to ask questions, or if you want to ask afterwards, there's some as we go and we look at that. So, are there any questions before we begin? All right, Erin, take it away.
All right. I appreciate Peter telling us about the parable of talents, because remember he talked about if you came with 0 talents, I was one of those students. So I was the one who had to add instead of multiplying.
Wait a second, the parable of the talents, nobody has 0 talents.
Well,
Everyone has at least 1.
well, I don't know about that. I just study languages and like HTML. I didn't even know what HTML stood for. So I was actually truly 0. Anyhow, so my project is Advanced Mandarin Learners Resource Library. So to start off, I have some questions for you. Who among you are advanced language speakers? Just by the raising of your hand.
You mean in a foreign language?
In a foreign language. Well, good that you speak your native language. Foreign language. Okay, I saw a lot of you raising your hand. So those who raise your hand, are you proficient? Which means are you fully functional in the language but not really perfect quite yet? Raise your hand if you feel that way.
Only functional in church settings? Or
Yeah.
okay, I can do that.
Sure.
Intervene discussion.
Okay. So I feel that you probably see language resources everywhere, meaning the resources in that language everywhere, but not really the resources that can really help you advance, like really move you from the proficient to native-like level. If you feel that way, maybe this library this tool that I created, may give you some ideas. So what I did, let me give you the design blueprint. So something that I thought I would do, I thought I would give the title of the website and then give introduction, identify the audience, and give the website and give some descriptions of the website so they can go directly to the website. These resources are all open source, so anyone can access, and you can really get some ideas how to move your language level to the next level. You might think that there are not a lot of these, but actually there were quite a lot of them. I actually initially came with 4 resources, and Peter suggested, well, I think you can find a little more, and I ended up finding a ton of them, and eventually ended up changing the design of my website. So, and I had my email and maybe a Google group. So, approach and tools, my approach was computer-assisted language learning, and I wanted to make the website simple and easy to navigate and helpful. I used HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery tools. Yes. So this is the website. Let's go to the website and find out how it is. Okay. So as you can see, I now have categories because I found a lot more resources than I initially thought. So there are videos and news, live radio, podcasts, social networking, and search and encyclopedia, and I welcomed, I identified the possible audience, which are advanced Mandarin learners. And here's my email, and they can join our Google group. So let's go to some of these resources. So for videos, for example, if you click, I have some resources, and if I hover my mouse over, it will give a brief description of that website. So let's go to, for example, Daily Life Chinese. So it'll lead directly to the website, and you can pick one episode. And these are actually purposely created by CNN, CCTV, and they come with transcription of the video, and you can actually study the transcription as well as listening to and learning about the Chinese. And these are very advanced even for me. I'm a native now. I'm a native Korean speaker. I speak advanced level Chinese, but I'm not quite the native level. And these are even to me pretty hard, so I have to listen to a couple of times. So these are good resources. Let's go back to the news. One thing that I did was I tried to pininize or romanize everything, but then I realized that my audience they are advanced Mandarin learners, so I just put Chinese characters here. So you can go to different websites, and these are news all across China, PDF downloadable. You can go to the news website. Yep, so the PDFs, and of course transcription is there. Some other things I thought would be helpful would be social networking, because you learn so much from networking with the native speakers. So there are some of them. QQ is a really famous one. You can pretty much do anything. It's like Facebook, so you can do a lot of these things. They're known for a lot of Chinese movies as well. And search encyclopedia. So something is like online encyclopedia. Oops. Stop moving. Okay.
It's doing away.
That's kind of cool.
It's over me because I'm not dancing. All right.
That's why you test things beforehand, so that when you do them in front of people, they do something totally different.
Yes. Stop dancing. Okay. So and I think it was Rick who mentioned that I don't know, maybe religious level. So if you want to learn academic essays, and there are really good resources. And I personally think that I need to learn better academic languages of all my foreign languages. So these are some of the websites that you can go to. Something that I want to be better with this website, I really wanted to incorporate rating system for each resources, so people can come, the users can come and they can rate what they like. So I can kind of see what is really famous, and maybe they can suggest to me. They can do that through emailing, but that was kind of beyond my scope of the design for this semester. Let's see. All right. Are there any questions? All right.
Well, Erin, how are you
Yes.
going to let people know about this?
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to advertise through this Google group that I showed in the design
Mhm.
blueprint of, on my website. Yeah, so people can join the Google group, and I'm going to advertise through this, and I already invited some people, so I'm hearing from some of them.
Good.
Hopefully it's going to expand. And I'm also planning on putting it on my blog, and also for my dissertation study, I'm creating Chinese videos with Chinese professionals. So, which will eventually be a part of Chinese flagship library. I don't know if you're aware of the Chinese flagship program. So we're hoping to use that for the BYU Chinese flagship center, and also other flagship centers throughout the U.S. So I hope that I can make this better and make a part of the flagship library. Awesome. All right, thank you.
Got now.
Okay, so to my project? 'Cause one of these is the lights.
Yes.
Oh. And then I went and talked to the assistant controller in my division, and he expanded it a lot. So I also didn't really know very much at all about computer programming, so I learned a lot. So my project was an online contract acceptance app for Con Ed. Right now, there is a way to do online contract acceptance, but only through the web. There's no mobile functionality. And while I am grateful for that, because John and Darren are in here, this is what it looks like. That's a lot of real estate on this website, which is fine until you put it on a mobile device, and then that's all you get. And it results in a lot of scrolling and pinching and going this way and that way, and I'm guessing they get lost before they actually get their contract signed, if they would try to do it like that. We did it with Peter's phone, and I got lost, and it's my job, yes.
Contracts, tell us who's making the contracts between who and who?
Anyone who, it's intended for contracted employees of Con Ed. So my full-time job is to work for evening classes, so it would be the people who are hired to teach evening classes for Con Ed signing their contracts, or Independent Study, or Salt Lake Center. It's actually quite the scope.
It's a lot of
And,
people.
yes, sorry.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot. You see how it kind of grew? It's Scott's fault, not mine. Okay. So how did we do, or did I do this? We coded in Corona SDK, which Jerry and I learned. The language was Lua, and the reason why we used that was because with limited changes for each device, you only code once, but you can code across platforms, so iOS and Android. And then there's also some XML interaction. And for this purpose, the computer programmer just gave me a snippet of XML instead of attaching it to the entire vat of XML at Con Ed, but that's his job later, if he wants to use it. So, and then I was also originally planning to attach it to BYU's CAS authentication, because you would have to log in, but that was as well outside my scope of being able to handle it. So it's his job too. So for flow and function, I'm envisioning it as part of the BYU mobile app suite. And again, that will happen at some point in time. And then, this is what it looks like. So I wanted to show it on a Galaxy S3, but on my computer, it's only like this big, with no way to make it any bigger. So here we are on,
That's my phone. That's okay.
sorry. What is this called? Station? Okay. So click on view my, and sign my contract, and when it's really tied into the system, it will only show up with the departments they work for. But I wanted to show how extensive it could be. And the only information they gave me was for EFY. So click on EFY, and then this goes in and reads the XML file and pulls out the contract number that is pending and puts it on the button. And then this gives all of the information that's required on the contract with the dates, what the contract's for, their name, their BYU ID, and then all the clauses. And for evening classes, there are 3 of those. But for other departments, there's apparently a whole lot more. So eventually, this section will have to be scrollable, because there could be way more than that on there. So then when they check that they're okay with the Honor Code website, they actually have to read the wording of the clause itself. And also, if it goes for independent study, this part will have to be scrollable as well, because apparently their clauses are like pages long. So, and then, do they accept? The only answer is yes. So, and as you can see, the wording for each clause is different, and it's also pulling it out of the XML file. Sorry, can go all the way through for a second. That's my favorite, no facial hair. I think they need to put no skin jeans. And then it pulls out the contract amount, and eventually it will be tied to the XML that will calculate this monthly amount if it needs to be split over payments. And then they hit accept and sign contract, and then it says, are you sure you want to? So you say yes, and then you're done. Sign the contract. Or you can sign another one, some of them have multiple, or you can sign it. So, then future plans would be possibly implementing it. That was the goal it was originally designed with the people who would be the ones who would take it and actually use it. But when we got into it, I realized that the scope of it was far larger than I was expecting. So they can have this, and if they really want to go in and do everything they need to. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. I don't want to hear a question. Just kidding. I work with John and Darren. Sorry.
So back on the phone thing, did you have any thoughts about how the size of those check boxes being
Yes.
touchable?
Peter made sure that I made them big enough. They're currently the smallest that Apple will allow them to be on a phone. So. But that's why if this was scrollable, then you'd have a whole lot more real estate to make the buttons bigger. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the buttons themselves are also, I think, as short as they're allowed to be. Yes?
So, I don't know a lot about the environment you're using, but it was basically a toolkit that let you put in widgets.
You could show
and-
some of your code.
Yeah, I could. Oh, my take a minute. I just a sec. Now you'll get to see my code it in. You can code in whatever.
No.
Sorry, I was like, yes, you can.
Sorry.
Even the Pandora's box that can be.
That's not it. Sorry, I didn't expect to do this.
The short answer is she used the same environment that your son's friend used to make bubble.
Okay, yeah. So you code in anything, and the way to attach it to XML is some lovely person came up with a file that you can download that reads XML and puts it into Lua language. So then you code in Lua, you have your XML file sitting in the folder, and then the XML parser takes care of that part.
So is there a visual interface also?
That's what we were looking at, was the simulator. Is that what you mean?
There is not
Not
a
the
visual
simulator,
interface
like you
built.
drag in a button or you
No.
drag in a,
Mm-mm. You write it all up there.
Only.
And if it needs to change, you go change it, and then try again, and change it, try it again.
Technically, that's on their roadmap. They announced it last year. I've asked about it and gotten silence, because they even showed a demo of it working, which I was really thrilled, but their interface builder, I don't know how far down their roadmap it is now.
Anything else? Okay, thanks.
Oh, good, it's already up. Somehow I deleted the screen while I was just moving that, okay. All right, so for my project, I developed basically a flashcard app for Biblical Hebrew for my students. And, excuse me, I want to give a little background on how I came up with the idea for it. About 18 months ago, over lunch date with my husband, I was talking about teaching, and he was talking about building apps. He's a computer programmer, and it just kind of in the middle of the table, poof, came this great idea to create a flashcard app that would give my students a way to use their phones to study for vocabulary quizzes and things, instead of, because they kept coming in with their phone and a pile of grimy cards that they were dragging around in their pocket, and so I wanted to leverage that. So out of that conversation, about a month later, I had created all the images of the Hebrew and the XML file, and he had programmed it for Android, which is what he likes to program apps in. And we launched it in July of 2011, and since then, currently we have 11,589 active users around the world in 173 countries. Okay, and so it's gone huge all over the place. And these are our top 10 countries. My favorite on there is that Israel is using it. That we have, that's like validation, when you can get your app for your language being used in the country of origin. That's very helpful. So we have a lot of users, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback. for updates that they would like. And we've also gotten a lot of complaints that it's not available for iPhone. Okay, my husband hates Apple products, and so that's why I'm like this when it comes to Apple things, and why he will never program it for Apple. But he did go ahead and last week created it for Windows 8. Okay, and we launched it a week ago. We have 14 users in these countries total, and it's already taking off. And we're actually charging for that, $2.99 a pop. And so we'll see where that goes in the next 18 months. But here's the problem, and this is what I decided I wanted to solve in my project. If he wasn't willing to program it in Apple for iOS, well, I just do it myself. So into this class I went. All right, so just like Karen, I use Corona SDK, and it's Lua-based. It builds to multiple environments and licensed by BYU IP&T. So because we have a department license, that lets it be free for Karen and I to be able to use that, which is awfully handy. I simplified the current design just so that as a beginner who had done no programming, I could learn and implement a series of functionality, but not go the whole way. That would have taken me like another semester to do. And I kind of had to scope it down to what I think I could learn and what Dr. Rich thought I could learn. He has a lot of faith in all of us that we can learn a lot. So we've been learning a lot. My first thought was, hey, I'm a beginner. I've done HTML before, so that's like my one talent. But what on earth have I gotten myself into? Using a series of tutorials, learningcorona.com has a great set of tutorials. And in Dr. Rich's class, and then my husband helping me over the shoulder, pointing out things I was doing terribly wrong with my coding, and getting me on the right track. That's kind of the teaching methodology that was used to get me through this project. This is my design. You come to an opening screen, and you can select the first year biblical Hebrew. That corresponds with the textbook that we use at BYU for biblical Hebrew. And then, or you can go to the top 600 biblical Hebrew vocabulary words. If you know about 600 words, you can read 80% of the Hebrew Bible. And so I wanted those words available for the students in the upper division classes to be able to study in chunks of 25, because that's how they're quizzed. They have 100, 200, 300 word quizzes. So this, when you click there, brings in either of these screens, and these are being brought in dynamically from the XML. They're not hard-coded in. And that was something that I was really happy to learn to do, because these lists get rather long otherwise.
I think the other advantage to that is she can use the same list across all of these platforms because she's using the same data.
Yeah, we have one XML file that's going for Android build, for this build, for the Windows 8 build. So that's nice and doesn't cause repeat work. Once you go into a list and choose, then it brings up the flashcard, and you get your Hebrew word with the English hidden, and then you can just hit Show English and sit there, show English, see the word, go to the next word, and go forward and keep going until you get to the end of the list. Then it brings up an alert that lets you know you've finished, and you're back at this screen again. Okay, so that's the amount of functionality that I built into it for just this semester's to-do list. I think more than that would have been over the top, but I have a lot more I'd like to do. Some lessons I learned. First, don't trust the emulator. Okay, so when you have the emulator showing you on your computer that this is how it functions, and then you go to build it out. Last week I had this wonderful dance around the house moment plastered on Facebook that I was done because it worked perfect in the emulator. Then I came to class and found out that once we built it to an actual device, it didn't work, and that was disheartening. So don't trust your emulator. Build off into the device to see that that's matching. Research the stability of your program choice before proceeding. At this point, I'm not convinced that Corona is stable enough for me to build to Apple, market, and ensure that the 10,000 people that download it there aren't all emailing me saying, but this doesn't work on my phone this way. And so I've got to do some more research before I will take this and actually put it into the Apple Marketplace. I just don't want that level of support to deal with. Rely on each other. Karen and I were emailing back and forth as we were both studying the same program with helps to each other, which saved us both multiple times. And then the last thing is that we can all do hard things. when I told my husband I was going to learn to make an app at the beginning of the semester, he was just like, good for you. And he honestly didn't think it was something I could actually complete. And not that I'm any less of a, you know. He phrased it in the most supporting way possible. But, you know, it just seemed like a lot. But yet, we did.
Are you sure you
So,
want to do this?
yeah.
project?
Sure? You're in the right class?
You know what I
Anyway.
Proud of you.
So right there is the emulator, and you just click, and it goes to the list.
Can't see it, Jerry.
Oh, see, okay. There you go. And it has the scrolling like that, and you can just choose a list and go into it, show English, that's the word for Israel. There's Elohim, God, or gods, and so forth. And you can just go back and through list after list. All right, any questions?
Is your husband proud of you now?
He is. He's like, yay. And I'm like, good. All right.
So Peter, you know how like 10 years ago people were all coding HTML by hand, you know,
Yes.
and then they've developed graphical interfaces, and now people don't even have to know HTML to create websites. Do you think that's happening here too?
It will. Increasingly, there's more and more third-party apps that have got things that will do it. Even Apple's own interface builder, greatly improved. If you went to, not this past ACT, but last year's ACT, Chuck or Charlie Miller, he's at Minnesota. He has a whole class of like 30 teachers who create apps just using the interface builder and Apple's actual code builder. So they're not real dynamic, but you can do basic stuff and get them out there. And so I think things will get that way as we move forward. You know, sort of the next radio, internet. I'm very excited about it. Do stuff. It'll stabilize.
Okay.
And that's how we're going to a completely text-based one.
Yeah. Yeah, my game is, I made a game, so I'll tell you. Okay, so what I'm creating, I created a computer game that will incorporate concepts from the Utah State Math Course for Secondary 1 in the creating of the game, not necessarily the playing. So it's not like a math game necessarily, but kind of ties into the core things that they'll be learning in their Secondary 1 class. They can incorporate as they're programming this computer game. This is part of my master's project, so eventually it's going to lead to a series of computer games that can be used to teach computer programming in high school. So the purpose behind this is to give high school math students an answer to that question of when am I ever going to use this? Because as a high school or junior high math teacher, which I was, you hear that all the time, when am I ever going to use this? And so it gives them an answer to that, but also the hope is to positively affect their attitude towards learning math. Rather than having it be something that they have to do to graduate, it's something that, hey, I can learn this as a tool to do other cool things. And so they can see it as a necessity. Oh, well, I want to be able to program this. I need to learn this math concept to help me do that. So the audience for this game, along with the other games that will eventually be created, can be given to math teachers teaching Secondary 1 right now, just as, well, once they're done, as a supplement to their lessons, so something they could do along with what they're teaching. However, I do know, being a teacher, that you have so much to teach that it might not be as practical to do that, just because you wouldn't have the time. So eventually, it would be nice, I eventually would like to create like an elective course that can be taken at the high school level concurrently with their Secondary 1 course. And so that way they're learning it in their math course, and then they're coming to programming, and they're using that stuff at that same time. And then students taking Secondary 1, okay, so I got that. All right, so I used Python, the language Python for this, mostly because we found a textbook that I could go through that's called Invent Your Own Games with Python. And so it was really nice. I did not know computer programming really at all. I did kind of a little bit last year with a project I did with Peter, but I'm like really not a programmer. And I kind of had the same reaction when I told my husband, hey, I'm gonna make this computer game. Was like, really? You're gonna make that in a semester? And I kind of had the same feeling of, what am I getting myself into? Can I actually do this? So it's a text-based game. It doesn't have all the cool graphics and things, so kind of think old school back when, you know, we didn't have all those computer graphics. It's called Business Tycoon. The player will choose a business startup, and then they have this task. They have to pay off the loan that they were given, and then they're also trying to make a profit, the biggest profit they can at the end. So now I'm going to, show you my game that I made. Okay, so I don't think there's a way to zoom in. It might be kind of small. I hope you guys can read it. This is my code. It's not actually. It's going to show up. Okay, so starts. Welcome to Business Tycoon. The goal of this game is to create a business and make the biggest profit you can, but be wary of the loan you have to pay off. So you'll get points for good decisions and having good years, and you will lose points for bad decisions and having bad years. Try to get the highest score you can. So then, how many years would you like to play? You can play anywhere between 1 and 20. So how long do you guys want to play for?
Actual time? 5 years.
5 years. Okay, we'll do 5 years. 5 years is good. I can show you all the options in 5 years. Okay, so first we have to choose a business. You've got 3 different kinds of businesses. You can open a candy stand. That was courtesy of Jerry's son, who actually did open a candy stand when he was younger. You're sure to have a lot of kids as customers after school, but the possible profits won't be quite as high. So this is a low risk, low reward kind of a startup. You can be a photographer. There seems to be a decent amount of interest in hiring photographers. You could probably make a decent profit, kind of a medium risk, medium reward. And then you could be a stock market investor. Pretty risky and unpredictable venture, but the possibilities are really great. So this is high risk, high reward. So what do you guys want to be? You want to have a candy stand, be a photographer, or a stock market investor? All right. We're going big.
You know, that was really telling you about our students. That was really good.
All right.
Underestimating the power of a candy stand.
It's true.
You are, because I just made a hefty profit on a candy stand.
Peter's been playing my game all day, by the way. So when you think he's grading, he's really not. Okay, so we are going to be a stock market investor. Here's my loan information. So you need to take out a loan to start your business. Based on our choice, we qualify for a $10,000 loan. We have a 6.25% interest rate. Our monthly payment is $194.49, and it's for 5 years, because we said we want to play for 5 years. So this is kind of where the math comes in the programming. They have to know, how do I calculate my loan balance? How am I going to figure out what my monthly payments are? And so here's where they're programming the math in. And then these values, like the yearly interest rate, is given a range. And so every time you play, you're going to get a different interest rate, which is then going to affect your monthly payment. So there's variety. It's going to be different each time you play. Then it tells you if you don't make any extra payments on your loan, you're going to pay $1,669.40 extra in interest. So rather than paying back $10,000, you're going to pay that plus your interest. Okay, so now we have $10,000 in our checking account. Now it tells you our startup cost. So to start your business, it's going to cost $4,668 for our first year of business, get all our supplies and things. That's another randomly created variable based on a possible range, so that will be different each time. So that's taken out of our checking account. We have about $5,000 in our checking account. Enter to continue. So here's round 1. Here's how the first year of our business went. We made 12 monthly payments on our loan. We spent $1,008 on supplies. Didn't get any new clients this year. Our profits for the year were pretty average. We earned $5,335. Okay? So then you're given the option, what do you want to do next? You can check your checking account, see where we're at. You can check your loan balance. You can buy extra supplies. You can advertise to get more customers. You can make an extra payment on your loan. You can pay off your loan, or you can just do nothing and move on. Okay, so what do you guys want to do? Yeah. Or you want to advertise. Huh?
Because I don't speak very well.
That's my vote for it. Go for broke.
We're gonna advertise to get more customers. Okay, let's check our checking account balance though first really quick. So tells us we've got over $7,000 in our checking account. So we're doing good. We can have the money to do this, okay? And based on the different choices you make, you're gonna get points in the game. If you make good choices, you'll get points. Alright, so now we're gonna advertise. You can spend anywhere between $1,500 and $2,500. How much you want to spend? 25. Okay. All right.
Run us out of business?
Uh-oh. No. Dang it.
Try, it says between.
1500.
It says
Not
between.
equal to. Try
Oh, let's do 2,400.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, that was our problem. All right, so we made $2,400. I'll fix that. Your checking account has a balance of just under $5,000 now. All right, so year 2. Okay, so year 2, we made 12 monthly payments on our loan. We spent about $1,600 on supplies, and unfortunately, we got the same scenario.
Oh.
No new clients, but we earned more money. We earned like $6,500. So let's check our loan. We have $6,369.50 left on our loan. Okay. And our checking account, we've got $7,500. Do you guys want to make an extra payment? Do you want to buy
Pay it
supplies?
Pay it off.
Pay it off. Okay, let's just get rid of the whole
Pay
thing.
it off.
Get rid of the whole thing. All right, so we're going to pay off our loan. Okay, so we're taking all that money from our checking account, paying off our loan, and that's good in this game because you get more points every year that your loan's paid off. All right. Okay, next year, round 3.
Oh.
Our loan's paid off, but a hurricane hit our state, and even though we made some profits, we had to spend a lot to fix our house in our neighborhood. So we did really bad. Overall, we're in like negative 2,200. Okay, so now our checking account's at negative $3,116. But our loan's paid off.
Did we have option 8 get new loan?
Huh?
Option 8 get new loan?
No, but that's actually something that we talked about, and further modifications that we could take out.
Well, yeah,
So right now we just have to
if
kind
you
of
have a
hope that
negative
we're
amount
really
and you're
good.
not getting interest
Karen.
added on, just do that.
Option 9, live with parents and babies.
Do they have a way to monitor how many points they're getting throughout the game, or is that a surprise at the end?
No, it is a surprise at the end, but that actually would be good. So that's a good suggestion. I can put that in. I like that. All right, so let's go ahead and do nothing because, we don't have any money. All right, so year 4, we spent $1,900 on supplies. Oh my gosh, a hurricane hit our state again. I swear there's more than just those scenarios. We're not too world. Yeah, or the Northeast.
Move away
We
from
lost
Florida.
$725. Now we're at like almost negative $6,000. So let's hope that we have a really good year. And here's our last year, round 5. Our loan's paid off. We spent $2,300 on supplies. But business was great this year. We doubled our customer base. Your profits were awesome. You made like $7,200. Now here's your summary, because we're at the end of the game. Our checking account has a balance of negative $913.26. We had 1 good year, 2 average years, and 2 bad years. Our average profits were $3,234, and our final score for the game was 510 points. Congratulations on your business venture. Would you like to play again? Yes. And then you just got So that is my game. New game.
So what do kids think playing this?
I don't know. I haven't had any kids play it yet.
What's the high score?
So I've been doing like really quick practice. I haven't done like you probably have to ask Peter because he's probably actually played it more than I have.
Is this game online, Courtney?
It's not. It's not.
Could it be?
Not with my
Because
programming
I actually
knowledge.
I have an entrepreneuring daughter who I actually think would get a kick out of
Yeah,
this.
I can send you the
Python
file.
is one of the reasons we chose it is because it is free and opens. It's free, so the kids in schools wouldn't cost anything to do this. And she actually learned a little bit about incorporating a graphical interface into this, but that's not where the game's at right now. But she could download it and run it on the computer. It actually Python's by default pre-installed on all Macs. So
It has to be Python 3 though, I think, right?
This
Or
one,
no, actually this one,
with what you've done, I don't think you've done anything that we've
Okay.
done on the pre-install already. So
Yeah.
she could run it. We'd give you the code and she could just play it.
yeah, it's all, so yeah, the software to use it is all free. So yeah.
I love it. They're always thinking they're gonna make a killing off the canvas. They don't understand the low risk.
Well, the stock market obviously is the way to go. so-
My son was killing
All right,
Cheers.
Whatever. Try and see how it works for you.
So I was since we've had for long.
I want to encourage there.
Okay, so the project that I started on for this class was something I just loosely referred to as fidelity video lectures. And that's because most of the time, from my experience and from talking with others, recorded lectures are really boring. Except for most TED Talks, we seem to like those. And so what I was hoping to do was to be able to just kind of lay some foundation on being able to enable more interactive and as well as help the opportunity for video lectures to be adaptive by using small chunks and getting some better analytics. And so what I was hoping to do with this was be able to kind of increase the similarities that you would have between live lectures that you would experience in a classroom versus what you would have in an online type format. And so one of those things being, you know, if you're sitting in a classroom or experiencing a lecture, you can raise your hand, ask a question, and it can totally change the trajectory of what it is you're talking about, or you can ask for some clarification. And so what I wanted to do for this project was, like I said, kind of lay a foundation for some things I'm trying to do on that end. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to jump over to what I ended up completing for the class, and then talk about where I fell short regards to what I was hoping to do, and then talk about what I'm planning to do in the future. So the first thing that I did was I needed to make a website to be able to kind of host everything. And so I've got this lab work section, which is kind of where my playground is. And I went ahead and was able to modify an existing kind of template I found for user account creation. I'm able to go ahead and create accounts which are password protected. And then you come here where you'll be able to view a video. And so this is just a really dumb video that I just had locally. I was working on integrating this with an embedded YouTube app, but found out it didn't work with the technology I was using, interesting enough. So, for instance, one of the things that I found that's really interesting is I know as I've gone through online videos, I have a tendency to do this. The video starts to play, don't worry, there's no sound, doesn't matter for right now. I have a tendency to do this, more likely this, and the video's still playing in the background. And so what I was able to find though is, you know, here we go along and all of a sudden my video's done, yay, little pop-up, please rate how effective the video was. I was gone for most of it, and it sounded pretty good. So I'll go ahead and submit my rating, I'll come back, and then here what's really interesting that I've been able to do successfully is capture some visibility information. So I was able to show, you know, when the user who was playing the video, only while they were playing, left the page. I can't track what they were doing, of course, but I'm able to record when they left the page, when they came back, and how long they were gone for. And so this is the first part, and it's also linked to the user account right here, when the video was being played, what the rating I gave it, and then some information about the video. Actually, that's not that's something I was testing this morning. So now I want to talk about where I want to take this. Like one of the next steps would be record at what point in the video they left. And that would be really useful from an educational perspective, to be able to say, man, you know what? 80% of the people watching this video, they're leaving in about the 3-minute mark. Yeah, do you have a question or just stretch it?
I'm just wondering if that's making the assumption that it's something about the video that's making them leave, as opposed to something that's going on in their life that they think is more important than the video.
But if you get a high enough sample, like, you know, one person it might be that his kid was screaming, but if you're getting 100 people and they all check out at 2 minutes,
No, so I think it could go one of two ways. I think one way that it could possibly be would be the video is boring at 2 minutes, or it could just be that maybe, for whatever reason, the type of learner involved with this, just their attention ability that they want to invest in it doesn't extend much past 2 minutes. And so I think there's a lot of information that we could gather that I don't personally don't know the answers to what those might be, but I'm trying to gain some ability to gather some information to look further. Did you have a question or a
I was
comment?
just going to say, it could also be that in a lot of recorded lecture, there's not a lot of value in the video channel.
Right. Yeah.
It's all audio, and you can go to another tab and actually not lose. I mean, if it's just their head and them standing there talking, watching it adds very little to what you get by having the audio, even if you're in another tab. So.
There's no value added to the
Right.
use
Which
of
is
the
the
video.
great thing about this, because you could run some studies where, if you start adding in some, if you're trying to make it more TED-y or make, TED-like or making it more, visual, do people stay tuned in to the video longer?
Yeah, my long-term big picture purpose of this is to be able to gather information like this, to be able to have a set of analytics. And one of the things I was hoping to be able to do by the end of this project was to be able to have like a graphical representation from the data. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. I started off with this class with some programming experience, but it was with a functional programming language, and it was mainly dealing with parsing and some scripting things. I had never done anything with databasing, so I ended up using PHP, jQuery, HTML, CSS, and then as well as my SQL. So it ended up being way harder than I thought it would be. My mind, my design blueprint, you look back and I was like, okay, 1 week I'll go ahead and create the user account. I got into that and it was just like, blew my mind as to how complex that was. So I've learned a lot along the way. What I want to take this as my next step is I want to kind of go back and rewrite some of this to make it more of a class. Like a PHP class that would be easily extendable to be able to be used on top of any type of video. Right now I've designed it around HTML5. And this little visibility information thing is actually only working for me right now in Chrome. I found that Chrome has some implementation of a WebKit API that the other browsers haven't used yet. That's a big weakness of this. I would need to go through and figure out how to make this more extendable. But I was really excited about the fact that I was able to get at least this far and to be able to lay this foundation. I learned a lot along the way in terms of how databases work, all of the video ID information, the user ID, all of those are linked within the database. So for a given user having rated a given video, I can record that information, go back and call it, and it links all that together. And to me, that sounded really easy to do from the get-go, but it actually turned out to be pretty difficult for me to be able to figure out how to do. The databasing concept is just really foreign to me because I learned a programming language that's very different in terms of how it approaches that than how I did it with this. So long-term, like I said, I want to be able to provide a set of analytics regarding video usage. Be able to go in and have a large sample size, be able to provide a couple different samples of videos, as well as adaptive. So let's say on a given video, a user rated it as a 3, we can go ahead and set all kinds of conditions with adaptive branching pathways. And then as well, there's lots of possibility if a user pauses a video, having a modal display pop up and say, are you confused about something in the content here, and have some suggested resources to be able to access. So there's a lot more I'm looking to be able to do with this in the future, but this is what I was able to accomplish with the class and learn a lot along the way. Dr. West?
Final question. Can you develop something like this for face-to-face lectures so we can tell when they start to tune out a little bit,
Well, I think one of the primary
built-in,
indicators
man.
So there's a lot. I'm really excited. I'm not familiar enough yet with the research to know what work has been done similar in this field, but I was hoping to be able to at least gain some kind of a tool set and ability to be able to gather some good information, some good analytics about video usages and how how they could be used and what we might be able to learn from that. So, any questions?
Does this still work if, rather than opening up a tab as a user, I open up a different window?
Yeah. So how the code works is if that particular window, whether it be a tab or an actual window, is not the active window, then that's when it captures the information.
Gotcha. Cool.
So.
We just need to run a packet sniffer and grab for Facebook.com. That
pretty much tells you all you need to know.
It's really done.
Actually, Jeremy Brown, he did that in his class and projected up there in 286. So we got a packet sniffer and projecting what was going on during class.
You just tuned out.
In front of the class. It's awesome. People saw their emails start to appear.
Only Jeremy.
Okay, so this is Buck Harrison, I'm Jeff Drysdale, and we worked on our project together So that was nice to have someone to collaborate with very directly. Our project came out of a class we're both taking from Dave Wiley, project management class. We decided to use Peter's class to gain the skills we needed for a task we volunteered for in Dave Wiley's class. And so, if you know Dave, you know he's a fan of open source textbooks.
No.
Shocker. Just a shocker for the presentation. So over the last little while, Dave, is, along with previous students who have taken his project management class, have worked really hard on a textbook on project management for instructional designers. This is on a website that's easily accessible, open source, and they've done a really good job with the content. And I mean, it's got videos from our very own Andy Gibbons and Larry Seawright, and images and all kinds of resources that would be helpful here. And so this semester, as a class, a project management class, we strive to just build on what has already taken place. And so I'm going to give you an overview of what Buck and our role was in this project, and how Peter's class helped us with that. So here's just a screenshot of the website that I just showed you, of the online textbook. And then you're familiar with that. Buck and our goal was to take this textbook and basically make it available in a broader range of ways, and so I'll show you what I mean by that. We wanted to keep it on our website so that it could just be accessed over the internet. We chose to use WordPress to put the book on so that it would be easily editable in the future, as well as it would be able to utilize some plugins that Buck will explain here in a minute that we would need. We also wanted to make the book available in ebook formats for Kindle, iPad, Android devices, just so that, again, to increase usability. And then lastly, we wanted to make sure there was a print-on-demand function for the book, and create a PDF for it. And so that was our goal. Before this, I had not done any computer programming, and Buck, from what I understand, had done just a little bit. And so the learning curve was very steep for us. We had to learn HTML and CSS and Python. Those were the languages that we needed for this, and Buck will tell you how it went.
Yeah. How it's going is a better.
How it's going.
Yeah. So
It's not due till Monday. I mean, you got all the time in the
yeah.
world.
That deadline's coming up.
That's actually completely true. It is too much.
So this is the new site, which was designed by the entire class. So it's an improvement on some of the features. For example, in every section, thanks to Jerry, we actually now have an audio feed for the entire section. The videos and everything are still connected here. What I'm going to focus on is why we used WordPress. One, it's easier to edit with multiple people, but also it provided some plugins. One of the plugins we use is Content Only plugin, which takes a WordPress page and gives us just the blank HTML. That became really handy when we wanted to create ebooks. So I'll show you a little bit about, just briefly, the code we created here. If you can see this, we used Python to gather each page, and we listed them sequentially in a list here. And as it goes through, it grabs the page, grabs the actual content, so we're not getting any of the WordPress extras that go into the HTML, just the pure HTML content. And this code right here grabs it, it creates a couple HTML files, and then it edits those files to work with two programs. In order to create the ebook, for an actual EPUB file, which will work on Android, Nook, iBooks, we needed to use Pandoc. And that also can create a PDF file. In order to create a file for the Kindle, we had to use something called KindleGen. So that's where we're at right now, we're better learning these programs and the languages underlying them so that we can get high quality ebooks out of it. And that's what this code here is, that we're constantly tweaking and rewriting to make it look presentable when we shoot it through these programs. So I just wanted to show the code that we've written. And the nice thing about it, it's completely accessible. We have a download page. We have the EPUB, Kindle, HTML, and I'll go ahead and show you the PDF. I created this 5 minutes before the seminar today, so it just takes a couple minutes to run, and you'll see that the PDF, we have the About page. It jumps right into section 1, and the entire PDF is about 213 pages currently. So the entire thing was created by script, so that we can dynamically update the website and get the PDF out. We're out of time, but we do have, and then we'll go to questions, we do have a couple, one's passed around.
Yeah.
We have an Android device floating around, and then we also have an iPad if you want to see it on an actual mobile device. Charles?
So what does it do with the videos in the PDF version?
The PDF version as well as the ebook versions, we're actually stripping the embedded video out, and we're just putting in links to the video that you can access via your browser. Unfortunately, since we're using YouTube, it's a little tricky to actually embed the videos into EPUB. We'd have to download the YouTube videos and manually try them.
Great thing for next year's class.
No screen capture or picture there, just the link.
Yeah.
It says video on there, and you can click on the link.
Yeah, I'll actually show you real quick. So, for example, one dot, it shows right here. So you have the name, title, and then it'll have a video right here.
And the
And
text is for the transcript.
The text is for the transcript. That's coming in the next day. We'll have an actual transcript, so you wouldn't have to watch the video. You'll have just pure text. Any questions?
So are you saying
Yes.
Direct us how you'd like.
that there's an online book, there's an EPUB, there's an audio book, there's a Kindle book, there's a PDF print-on-demand book?
And they can download the HTML file themselves if they want to put it somewhere else.
That's what I thought you were saying.
And the whole
You have to
thing,
come up with
if you
something
want
else
to
for
make
next year's
if you want to make an update, you can make an update online and then run the script and it will regenerate.
Yeah, the idea is that that script will run automatically every night. So if any page gets updated, when you wake up the next morning, there's new EPUB, new Kindle, new PDF, new HTML here.
Free to download. So, and you all actually could, I don't know, well, wait a week. But then you can go to this website and you can have this book for free. So that's our project.
So you could read a chapter today, wake up tomorrow. the
And read it
chapter's
again, all new stuff.
gone. Wait.
It's a surprise every time.
So there's
Rereading
one more. Like every week it's different. What will be the address to get this? Will you advertise that when it's time?
Yeah, it's actually pm4id.org.
That's the whole thing?
That's it. And everything will be right there. So if you go to that website, it'll just shoot you right to the page. And then you have links to every section. You have a download link right here at the bottom, and then a glossary as well, which is included in your ebooks and PDF.
So does it also publish the audio book?
So the audio is embedded into each section. It depends on your device. If your device handles audio, it should pull it in.
So it doesn't create an audio book for me that I can go listen to on my iPod or my phone?
On the download, just that you can download all the audio files. The audio files are
I'm really disappointed. I mean,
I
know.
I'm sorry, Charles, but you're just going to have to learn how to read.
By
I'll make one for
By
you.
Monday. By Monday.
So next week, check, you will get the audio.
You'll get it through iTunes by Monday. Dang it.
I can do that. I mean,
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
one book out of it.
Let's do that and we'll download.
And then we'll send it to his email.
Yeah, we'll personally
200
deliver
meg.
audiobook.
Sorry to increase the size of your project, guys.
Oh my gosh, that's the easiest change we've ever made to this.
I know,
project.
if I push a button.
I like
We already have the audio, so it'll be.
Yeah, it's just, we need a link for it.
Ask the question.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I probably was, you probably missed it. So you have the audio, like you guys actually went through and narrated and read the whole book?
No, Microsoft Annie.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if you're using the
It's somewhat robotic, but
It's
not terrible.
Yeah,
It
it's
isn't.
better
Welcome to project management for instructional designers.
than, actually just
He
recorded
listens to
Jerry.
everything.
Put it on there.